Hi guys, thank you so much for joining me. Polina here, chatting to you a little bit about the month of February 2023 and what is going on. Also, please check out my Patreon in the links below. So on Patreon, I have all the signs for this month, and I always do audio files that are about half an hour long for all signs every month. And yes, I also do day-by-day readings. So I tell people about every day of the week, and I tell them about what to expect for those days. And also I talk a lot about the different alignments and things. So every month I basically share what is going to be in detail going on. So if you like the kind of stuff, have a look at my Patreon and also check out my website if you're interested. Anyway, let's have a look at February 2023. So at first glance, everything's fine, right? It feels that things are very colorful. They should have been colorful. There is a social aspect also, always to an Aquarian time, and also always to a rabbit year, as we have started the rabbit year fully and well on the 21st of January. It's already unraveling into a very kind of biased social time. But here's also another factor. We have Pluto very, very close to Aquarius, and another factor being that we have Saturn in the last few degrees, still dancing through the sign of Aquarius. It is not a very easy time. That means that Aquarius cupped by Pluto and Saturn won't be very nice to you this time, and it might be very judgmental. And also a lot of people might be looking for that within themselves or another. There could be a very, very big local judgment or a new way that a group or a demographic sees the world. There could be change or fluctuation in judgments and also attention to certain things, and that could control a lot. This could control employment, this could control attention, attainment, and how one presents in a group and what one can claim. So for this reason, people are extraordinary and very universal in how they try to hide and also create room for difference. There's like a lot of ingenuity going into sculpting a body these days, or there's a lot of interesting ways that people want to pass themselves off as someone they aren't. So yes, there is stealing, there is lying, there is a lot of people wanting to be much more equipped or much more successful outside at least than they really are, and also inside themselves. There's lots of people trying to gain confidence or make room for more extreme feelings, and maybe some people are going to extreme measures to basically become better off very quickly. So people are trying to cover up the blemishes. People are trying very fast to reorganize their psyche or reorganize their world, so they seem more protruding, more wealthy, more conscious, or more successful to themselves at least, and to other people. So here is when I would probably draw the line with everything and be very, very careful, very clean in your conduct, and also be very, I suppose, repetitive in the process and the patterns that you actually want to evolve. Unfortunately, so many people lying these days. Rabbit year is also very known for lying and hiding of the truth. There's so many people like sort of escaping reality that it might be very hard to face certain facts later on. It might be very good to get a more solid account. So basically what I'm doing is I'm using a more solid browser. I have also been very careful about where I save my finances, and yes, I did have to change some passwords. Maybe also for you that is something very important. Internet security. I trust this is one of those things that is going to save you a lot of trouble and time later on in the coming year or years, to basically be a little bit more savvy. And I also feel that security is important for everybody. We have to know who is in our village. We have to also understand what is that sense of peace and maybe tradition that we're looking for. It's a rabbit year after all. There's conservatism in this fixed sign of Aquarius, riddled with Pluto and also with Saturn at this time as well. Pluto is not quite yet fully in Aquarius, but it's already taking its toll. And yes, quite a lot of people have to understand that it's not just easy now. There is a pointer system. We are taking points off off and we're putting them on. There are people shuffling in society. Some people are getting a lot of credentials, and then some people are absolutely discredited for things that they have said and done. So this is not just for me, for anybody working online, but I definitely would be extra careful if you are a personality, if you're working online, if you're working with people, if you like work as a therapist. It's very, very nice to get to know you during this time. It's really, really nice to be safe and free and open also, but it's also very good to consider what other people have said and done. It's very, very strong time for, once again, theft, and it's very, very strong time for human ambition that is going probably like the wrong way. People are trying to pass themselves off as something else, but there's also like a reckoning that I feel we will have to see happen this month around. There's a reckoning, there's like a big storytelling. There is a fear in some people, and yes, also a lot of remorse. I already touched on feeling remorseful before the moon, and I don't want to implant any ideas by accident. I just want to say that a lot of people may not feel very good about what they have said and done, or they might feel very bad about how hard done they were by somebody else. And also, if you did something that could have hurt somebody, especially as we go into Pisces later on this month, please consider paying amends, saying I'm sorry, saying I will do it better next time. It is going to pay you a lot more later, even though it might be a little bit of a condescending feeling. Sometimes having to apologize, it is good to be very, very black and white about things and to hold yourself together. If you are asking to pay back or to somehow answer for your actions, if somebody's asking you to pay them back, so if somebody's asking why did you do that or why did you say that, it's so good to be simple and very, very kind of binary and very knowing this time around. It's not about weaseling your way out, especially if you have a business name to uphold. Reputation can be collapsed just like that. So all of that lenience that we had in a tiger year is over. All of that compassion that we had, and also the oxen year, is over. And of course, we don't have any time now for certain things. So where before you were kind of even thought cute or fine for making mistakes, before people were absolutely on your side, they could have not heard some things you said. There was such thing as selective hearing. Like people would feel a little bit more lenient about what somebody said and done. It's like, well, overall, well, considering everything, that's a good person, or that's a good guy. Now that is not happening. We have a very, very, very sensitive ear and sensitive sentiments in the audience, and quite a lot of people that are around us, not just like on social networks and online, but just like in the daily life, could be very piqued and very aroused or very sensitive to certain topics. The one of the good things is we got Jupiter here very close to Juno, which is always a nice combination, and eventually joined by Venus this month. So Jupiter is going through Aries, and he's going so good. So here the attention goes towards the body, the bodily, and the physical. I would just not pay attention to any of that stuff that you see on TV. I would not get into any fights. I would not try to work it out with anybody. Working it out in Aquarius, forget it. It's just set, it's done. It's a fixed side. Don't work anything out. Instead, it might be nice, proud, and very, very, very evolved to just like hit the gym. Jupiter in Aries is amazing for, yes, being number one. And unfortunately, people are so scared of this time now. They are so hard on themselves. They're now paying attention to every blemish. They're like thinking, oh, what do I look like? How do I look? Or like, how did I come out to be? Like, what are my outcomes? Usually Aquarius is time of outcomes. It's like the gallery. It's like the portfolio. You see what a person is in Aquarius. This is the second to last sign. February is the last month of the year. So I'll get back to that later. So Jupiter is really pumping us full of ego and sometimes full of shame if we are not very well. And sometimes this can lead to madness. Also, madness and psychosis is a big part of a rabbit year 2023. So the way that I would work it out is go to the gym, Okay, get excited, work your body. It's really good to go for a walk, even if you haven't done that in ages. Try to eat healthier. And quite a lot of it will just put itself together. And yes, also Vesta next to Jupiter is a very, very lucky sign eventually as well. She'll be crossing him by the end of the month. She is a very, very lucky energy for also, yeah, computers, very, very good for knowledge, very good for information and drawing point or bringing the eye towards something that is very singular and very important. Very interesting. Celebrity status. Some people might be very noticeable. If you are certain people, maybe you notice also, are very noticeable. If you are like that, if you are noticeable and if you noticed, you might get paid very well for what you do. If you have a very beautiful body, if you have a very beautiful way about you, you might be chosen beyond the competition. So it's not about having the paperwork and having done the job. It's about actually being very attractive and good looking. So sometimes Jupiter will pay you during this time because of how attractive and how focusing you are. Also, I have to say that focal point sometimes is something that society has always made trouble with. People have always wanted some pomp, a lot of pompous behaviors like going on today. So pompous behavior and being a little bit strange and being a little bit not necessarily vulgar, but being really possessed by being the focal point or the point of attention right now is incredibly unlucky. We have Saturn in the sky, you guys, and Pluto is pressing up against Aquarius as well. We have just passed Pluto, so that's very, very unlucky. It's very unlucky to have, for example, also sexual experiences with strangers. It's very unlucky to put yourself places where you shouldn't be. It's very unlucky to be bolshy and also accidentally out of fashion. Also, because of how Venus is going through the sky here and the trailing progression behind the Sun, it is very, very easy to make sense of things that don't matter. It's very easy to be part of a world that doesn't matter. To think you're wearing the latest fashion where you are wearing very bad fashion. To think that you are standing out and you're making a good impression, good appearance, and then finding out that you've actually put your foot in the mouth. It's very, very hard to be out there, and it's also very hard to be forgiven for something that you might say, wear, or do. So I wouldn't trust that impulse to suddenly like cut your hair, get piercings, like, I don't know, like get some really extreme body modification, especially, or surgery. I would definitely not go towards that extreme. Some people want some extreme results. People want to travel far and wide. People want to stretch their wallet. People want to accidentally walk into something that would be very good for them, which is actually what Jupiter next to Chiron could actually help you with. You could be an accidental person in the group and you can accidentally have some things happen to you, but this could also be a bad type of accident. So also coming back to the beginning of the month, Juno is very close to Jupiter. Why is it healthy? Why is it happy? Juno, okay, the most fresh, the most beautiful experiences, and also sometimes the most frugal customer or the most frugal person in your story might open. And we are looking at Jupiter and Juno being very close to Chiron also, all through the month basically. So you can open and you can find keys that you haven't been able to find. So how you spend the time is up to you. It is not about brute force. Brute force is very sexy right now. Pluto is just about edging on Aquarius. People want to brute force their way through. Like, I told you so, look at me. Like taking on commitments, wearing the puffy collars, being more extreme in their nature, being more enthusiastic than they can be, than they can afford to be. But Juno also is telling me that we have to be just fresh and kind. Also, Rabbit loves a fresh face. Rabbit loves nature. Rabbit the year. Rabbit loves young people. It loves freshness, up-and-coming personalities. It loves things that are for you and that are good, and also things that are all round well. It's about design. Okay, and also if you're one of those people that really have always loved a well-made, something well-made, like well-made outfit or really, really beautifully crafted book. If you love well-made and cared for items and you love, soft-spoken and well-mannered people, this is the year. This is the year. And also, if you do have collections, eventually it could be a very nice time to consider how you can put your collections on show, because not everybody needs to be quiet and secretive, or not necessarily secretive, quiet and careful, I would say, this month around. Certain people that have grown themselves into great collectors, connoisseurs, great speakers, or great people of certain passions that have retained their call for a long time, that have matured, they could be very, very easily known these days. So, for example, if you start to surface your wares, if you have great amount of knowledge about something, if you are very, very well built and very, very well pronounced, like a fish in water, so you've already cooked, you've already cooked it. It's already beautiful, it's perfect. If you're really, really good at something and you naturally like to care about yourself and other people by showing up and showing your wares, that's also very good. But this is in the realm of dreams a little bit. So what I mean is, not about being pushy, bullshit, and trying to get a strong cause and effect out of that which you're doing, because it just won't work. We have Venus walking through Pisces for this month, and she just doesn't like a pushy person. Venus in Pisces will not give you anything if you're yelling, will not give you anything if you're screaming, or if you are being a little bit too possessive or emotional about your results. And these questions also come from Pluto. Are you secure in yourself enough, or are you still working through ego? And yes, I always bring this up: acidity in the body, volcanism, feeling very volcanic, feeling very distraught about not getting what you wanted to get. All of that stuff comes from acidity, and sometimes it is inside the stomach rather than the mind. So you can say, what was I thinking? But it's actually not you. It could actually be the stomach lining. And also, as Mars is inching slower and slower, slowly and slowly to Cancer, we are going to get a lot of gut feelings and a lot of emotions, and a lot to be said about hospitality and also the fine people that are in service to others. That's something that came through during readings for the month for different signs. I've noticed that a lot of people are going to have to ask for more money. People are going to be asked not to be treated a certain way. So services, fees for services are raising, and they should be. I feel there's a lot of people feeling really bad and broken and left behind because of being in certain type of service based positions. So we have to also consider how our society and the people that we mix with treat the service person. So I'm not trying to like implant any sorts of feelings or anything. I'm just telling you that it's going to be one of the themes I feel is going to be very open and seen in society for the next year to come. Service people, and what is worth that service that we provide one another, and also about the ego playing through the narrative of the job giver and the job doer. And yes, the serviceman and the master. And we have to basically start to cover those wounds. We have to try and speak less of these things in a hurtful way. We have to basically find the time to speak of these things and try and solve these puzzles as a collective. So that's something that's coming up. And also, yes, what did cross here, touched my eye, was Venus next to Jupiter. Venus is coming into alignment with Jupiter. This is always an exciting thing to see. She's going to be going through Pisces. She's thinking about him, she's feeling, and then they're together. So very, very good time to find your significant other. Sometimes it's really good to be placed near somebody that accidentally sort of is placed next to you. It's very interesting to be in a story where you're also the one. So it's like people don't see anybody else but you. It's very interesting also to be chosen for that one trait that you definitely do have. It's really about originality of ideas by the end of the month as we go into Pisces, and it is also about knowing your worth and knowing what is good about you. And unfortunately, people cannot see the forest for the trees. This month is one of the most confusing months I've seen, but it's also one of the most fertile, fertilizing, gentle, and potentially very lucrative months. So Jupiter next to Venus always brings us up very fast. We sometimes have to look at things that we've said and done, and we have to clean up our palette and get rid of all of this karma so that we can be available to achieve and to receive some grand gestures from life. So where do I put you guys? Well, this is depending on your karmic records. And now this is very easy. Now, if you're huffing and puffing, if you're very volcanic, if you're angry, if you're volatile, if you're trying to twist your fate, if you're trying to argue it out, Venus is not going to be home for anybody. But in saying that, she always produces something good when she touches on Jupiter. So she's going to always at least give you a safe place to be. So sure, you could have been in a fight, or you could have had some karma damage during this month of February, but eventually you might land it all right. So that's just an okay thing. But if you really, really want to be good, and if you want to be nice, and if you want to just suffice as you are, and you want to put things together in a very appropriate and gentle way, this could signify that this Venus would treat you extra good, and that by the end of the month you might have a lump sum package. So what I mean by that is, if you've passed Saturn well, Saturn always asks you, what is your karmic record? Did you do okay? Did you do your homework? How well did you do? Did you lie to somebody? Were you a good girl or a boy? It's not just that. Saturn tries to not necessarily initiate, but test you for your true personality and your truth. Saturn in Aquarius is about the person and how they come across. It's not just about that. It's not about the ego and one's externalized factors, but it is. It's also about your thoughts. So people forgive, like me, por favor, like please forgive me for bringing this up. This is something that I think people find very freaky. Nothing is secret. Your thoughts are a certain type of computerized maze, and also how people like me can read people's, because that maze is open to us consciously, but also unconsciously it is open to most of the world. Many people can pick up each other's thoughts, vibrations, feelings, and fears. It's just not something that is outwardly seen. So if you're thinking, well, it's all in my head, so nobody's gonna know, haha, it's not. It doesn't work like that. If you think stealing, lying, and all of that is going to get you places because it is under the guise, of mystery, under the veil of mystery, that isn't going to happen. So lying, stealing, and being unfaithful and cheating, all of that stuff, it's very, very big right now. It's very big this year around, this month specifically. It's going to be very hard to get to know yourself. And also imagine you've put all this energy, all this chemistry into hiding your true thoughts and feelings and hiding your actions, or trying to somehow mummify a good result, keep results that are not natural or secure for you. This Venus is going to pass you by, and she's going to say like, oh no, no. So it's like, if you can imagine you're a salesperson and you're sitting there and you have all your wares in front of you, and these people with incredible spending power walking past, and you're saying, no, no, no. It's almost like a smell. It's like they can smell something that's not good. And also we are actually developing during this time a very big mafia scene. Sorry, I know it's like too much. Like, people didn't want to know that. There's a lot going undercover. So this is why I also talk about internet security. Please be very, very secure about what bank you put your money into. Put your money away. Put it in a bank. Seriously, like right now. Like, secure your savings. Also very worthy to have things stashed at home. Very, very good to be very careful with that as well. So very, very careful about everything. There's a huge development in the human psyche that is made of secret mystery and not wanting to tell anybody what's going on. And also Lilith is going through Leo, so she's very bolshy about it. So it's cool to be a bad boy these days. And also, yes, Venus going through very elusive and secretive Pisces, and Pluto being behind the Sun. It would naturally be very wise not to be a part of this. And I saw there was a lot of themes of potential interaction with bad people or criminals for some people during this month, as I was looking through the different signs. So mafia activity and things that are not of the common gaze. Also, I come back to this through the readings that I've done on Patreon that are out now. I talk a lot about would it be okay on a global overall if you are within a certain network of people, if you're working for certain community guidelines and standards. Is that accepted by your community? Is it accepted by your religion, spirituality? Is it acceptable, through a certain type of cause and effect with people? Would that be legal, basically, on whatever level? So legality is quite a huge question mark. I definitely trust that legalization and understanding how that works is something that we also have to think a lot about, what we should and shouldn't have around. And yes, I do see a lot of people squirming and getting very angry, and it's like, well, how dare you? What are my rights, human freedom of speech? It's not going to be easy to prove anything this month around, or this year in general. So Tiger Year 2022 was the best time to walk out there with a banner. It was the best time to beat the drum, to get some attention. It is not that good now. So even if you have some very strong rhetoric and you're very well backed up by your knowledge, even if you have some people that you know, if you have like some incredible income or potentiality and you can argue your point, you can afford to argue your point, any argument is probably going to get diffused by the end of the month, was going to start to feel weak. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the end of the year. So we think in terms of December being the 12th month, but this doesn't make any sense because December is the 10th month. Diez in Spanish is 10, okay? November, 9. November is the 9th month, but we think it's the 11th month. October, octagon, ocho in Spanish, 8 in English, okay? That's the 8th month. September, Septima, siete, 7, okay? It's the 7th month, not the 9th. So that's the thing, it's already kind of pre-written, you know, so how the heck that system got abused and why January and February are the first 2 months, I have no idea. I won't get into it, maybe that requires some research. But we are basically at the end of the year, so there's something to get excited about. So February is the last month, it is the 12th month. Okay, and we are going through the 12th sign at the end of this month. So at the end of the month, we are going through Pisces. And that's basically when it's done and dusted. And I know some people won't agree, and there is this thing happening in people's heads thinking, oh no, this is like the second month of the year, like this is the start. It's not the start. I keep on saying this every single year. It is just the ending. So as we go through Aquarius, it's already going to be seen that we need to, you know, kind of connect to trauma and karma and our family histories and doing things the proper way. And we have to ask for forgiveness and redemption, you know, is important during this time. And maybe for quite a lot of us, it's going to be like, uh-oh, where did I go wrong? Where have I done something bad? We're counting the chickens, you know. Also, look at your accounts. Where am I spending more than I should be spending? Where am I lying? Where am I still trying to be somebody I'm not? Saturn also in Aquarius, yes. When am I going to get rid of this issue? Why do I still have an issue? Why am I sick? Why am I lonely? Why am I sad? All of that is coming up in Aquarius. And then basically we're going into Pisces. And what Pisces does is says, forgive and forget. It's very hard to understand. But then there's going to be a way that also this Venus in conjunction to Jupiter is going to make it very easy for you, probably all of you, quite a lot of you, to just sort of wave it goodbye. It's not going to be easy for some people, but for quite a lot of us, there's going to be some, why me, why me? And then it will make itself into just a nice little story. And I'm also feeling for you guys, as Venus does go on into Jupiter, is going to be quite a happy ending, even if you've done something wrong. So at the moment, even though it looks like a little bit of a judgmental landscape, it's looking quite lenient to give you a hand and to also allow you to go. There is no real shame. So it looks like there's quite a bear trap out there for some people. It looks like there is like a huge word of mouth at the start with this very fiery Pluto heading towards Aquarius, something that I will be talking about in later videos. Yes, but there's also a very nice sensitive energy that is coming through as Venus is going through the murmur of Pisces, and she's preparing, or she's paving the way. So we already don't feel that big a deal about things that haven't been working out in our lives. So that means to me that March to some degree is going to be a healthy, simple, warm and kindly month. But because I'm a pragmatic person with Saturn in my first house, I'm going to ask you a question. Did you do enough? Maybe. Yeah, okay. Aquarius is not so good for trying to force things to change. It's also not so good for fortune telling as well. It's not so good. It's a little bit pragmatic also because of fixed sign. It's not telling you off, but it can also bring you attention to things that are just not working with. Also, Mars still in Gemini is going to be like, hey, oh, you are not going to do this again. Stop it, stop it. Like, this is bad. Like, don't eat this. This is made of crap. What is this? Don't look at this thing. No, it's not going to matter. This doesn't matter. Look, look. It's a little bit rude also with us. And yeah, sometimes you might get premonitions that you might not be ready for. So Aquarius has a very rude, like, stop, don't go there feeling. And that's going to get us all to notice exactly what we need to notice. And sometimes it is not about making somebody else necessarily aware of it. We've got to be very, very nurtured. So nurture is probably the main classic archetype of this whole year ahead. And to be good to ourselves and our systems, our souls, to be good to ourselves in every way. So I do definitely come back to your gut, your exercise routine, your lifestyle, where you're living, and what are you doing with yourself, how are you going, basically. And what I've learned also as a healer and a reader and everything like that is that nobody is immune to certain things happening in their life. Nobody, because they don't take care of themselves, you guys, because they don't take care of themselves. And I don't want to like stress this too much, because I understand that usually people that go to see a psychic or they go to see an astrologer, they don't know this and they don't want to know. They're like, it's written in the stars, like, where is my lucky charm, like, where is it? And I'll tell you, guys, you don't need to do this way. This is kind of a slightly ignorant way of doing it. The better way of doing it is just basically going directly through the body and understanding how you're treating yourself, because everything is within, so without. So if you are not treating yourself very well, your energy is going to be drab. It's not going to be necessarily good or bad. It's just going to be like unsightly or nervous or uncomfortable. The life that you're living is going to be bad or not very easy because of the different diseases and illnesses that the body naturally would have to store because of lack of time or lack of energy to process everything. But if you really, really look at your internal system, you will get there much quicker. So that's also something that I've done with myself. So I'm definitely living what I'm teaching. And I have to say, like, after 1 year of super strong cleanses in Peru, yeah, I've done it. I'm feeling really awesome. I can now say that I finished the process of like reconfiguring my body, mind, and spirit, and that was done through changing of my system. This was done through building new pathways in my body that I've done with spiritual also and physiological cleanses. And there is no special tool, so it's not about like going to a Reiki master and they do this a little bit and then you're healed. You have to actually go into the body and solve problems. And sometimes it starts with diet and a hygiene, and yes, that works for me as well. But I think that a lot of people would do much better if they actually started to study themselves a little bit better and know themselves through the different herbs and plants that are available. And it's not necessarily like ayahuasca or anything so big. I don't use that. I'm just saying that although I have in the past, there are lots of plants in the world. And there are lots of people in the world, you know, there are lots of different tribes and traditions that can help you evolve your mind, body, spirit potential through cleansing your body, which is something that I've always been into. So that's not something that maybe you think works, because people are looking for a quick fix, but this is something that I also have to mention because we have Jupiter and Venus both going through Aries. And either way, however you turn it, it comes back to the body. It comes back to the body. If you are not keeping clean, if you are not experiencing physiological changes, if you're not taking yourself anywhere good, if you are not feeling interested in life, it's just all going to be like, yeah, whatever. So we have to also understand that Rabbit Year is about cleanliness, and it's about being supportive and about being able. It's not about service anymore. It's not about being in service to people. Oh, yeah, I'll carry you. Sure, I'll drive you. Yeah, okay. It's not like that, and it never could have been. So also, a lot of healers and shamans have been losing their might and their energy, and for the last 2 or 3 years, a lot of them basically fell off the radar, and they can't do it anymore because they're just so bored of being a service person and cleaning up other people's auras. So this is not what we're doing now. It's not about service. It's about being aligned, in alignment, and then your alignment triggers other people's alignments. You know, so that's basically what it's about. And also, Tiger Year would have prepared some very good leaders that are self-aligned enough to be able to align other people. So it's about being curious and interesting to other people. And also Pluto is almost, he's crossing actually into Aquarius in March. He's almost in Aquarius this month around. So that's already a huge thing. It's about you and your presence, basically. It's about your presence. And it's not necessarily about like your fashion statement that you're making. Fashion isn't, well, it still works. It isn't the way. Fashion isn't the way. We are too psychic and bulletproof energetically to be able to buy that stuff very quickly. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that in Pluto. And I know that a lot of people got by being something they weren't for such a long time, for so many years. But now you may as well say goodbye to those tactics, because it's going to be just about who you really naturally are and what is natural for you and for your body. So there's going to be, I feel, the next block of changes coming to this planet. I really truly naturally believe that. And I also feel that quite a lot of people will be able to come through and nurture you. So if you are now stuck in Aquarius, like telling me like, well, I don't really like my outcome, so I don't like my beginning, like this year sucks already. Well, firstly, it's not the new year, but okay, it's still the end of the previous cycle. There is no need to worry or like to be very rabbit-like, so to save money like obsessively and to try and like, triple and double check everything and everybody. It's not necessarily about becoming that kind of monster, which is definitely something that has come to me. I've been that for a few days when yeah, never mind. But I got pretty like freaked out a couple of times about some things. It's not about seeking the bulletproof plan necessarily. It's like about easy, conscious, comfortable, and mellow living, and also making other people feel good. It's not about, well, right now maybe it is. Maybe that's what it is on the basic level. It is about appeal. It's not actually necessarily about being appealing because you have put on a show to be appealing, or because you have made yourself good at being appealing. It's about being on every single level comfortable and appealing to yourself, and then eventually that sensitive energy transfuses and it becomes kind of like a social gel, without you having to plug anybody in, without you having to lie, without you having to twist yourself around, arch your back, and unnaturally look at somebody and accept something from them. Also vulgarity, also the tone of things is very seen, and that's probably the last thing I'll say about transparency and people understanding things at a distance. So if you have been taught to exaggerate your features or exaggerate your body or become somebody you aren't, vulgarity and things that are out of proportion will no longer be clean or seem clean to another person. So where we were before was different. It's like, well, that person looks nice enough. Yeah, sure, I'll stamp them in. It's not like that. So there is like a very, very deliberate and very excessive maybe screening system in certain people's lives, and to get certain jobs also, and to be part of certain people's lives. And it's going to eventually become quite extreme as to the screening process that certain people and individuals are going through. And I'd like to also say that to retain comfort in life and to retain a certain feeling of confidence and calmness and creativity, yes, it definitely would be good to look at the filtering systems. Also the human throat. The thyroid, for example, is a great filtering system. The lungs are a filtering system. It's not just this. There are lots of different filters in the body, but like filtering energy, also learning how to filter words, learning how to filter people, who does and who doesn't get to see you, who is and who isn't close to you, what is and what isn't part of your world. That natural is almost like a negativity sometimes. A natural selection is something that we have to get used to. I've just done a little lecture on natural selection with a person. Natural selection is not something to frown on, and I do understand that our modern world has shunned natural selection. It's like everything deserves a place, everything is exactly perfect as it is. It's like, yeah, but there's also a way that things get filtered, and that's why also in reality certain things do get to happen and certain things don't get to happen, and a lot of it is natural selection. And also some of it is kind of decided by, people say creator. It's actually decided by all of it, the whole ecosystem, the whole ergonomic blueprint of life itself decides upon it, and that includes everything. So like what it basically does is it uses vibration and frequency, and in a way certain parts of it is geometry and matter, to be able to rearrange itself. So we're looking at this very complicated way that the pineal gland works also in Aquarius. And what is this kind of like sorting out that we're going through, this filtering that we're going through in the rabbit here, this kind of funnel of filter. Everybody has a place now, but eventually these places will change. And where you end up being, or like what country you end up living, or what is your condition, or sets of conditions and rules in your life, and what you're able to experience, what you're able to afford, might be based on this vibrational, almost like ergonomic, geometrical way that life basically sorts things out. And the best way to do it is to see everything around you as nature and natural. It's not just about people and their public and their opinions and their like toxicity and their class systems. And this really like caught me up before. That was really bad for me before. I also thought that there was something like that going on. This is not how it works. Basically, all is natural in a way. The whole world is breathing and living through all of these different portals. And how you get chosen, because we're talking about Jupiter and Venus conjunction, you know, how you get picked, and what you become, Jupiter, Venus, and Aries sign, and who you are to be also for the next, I don't know, cycle of time, and how you get placed in society, and what are the opportunities available to you, and what you get to experience sometimes is not necessarily you or like how you are. It's almost like a vibrational sequence that it is, and that it takes to make you aligned to certain things. So yeah, accidents matter, accidental thoughts, accidental actions, accidental thinking patterns, and accidents in general, they are all within the spectrum of what Earth is, of course. And it's not all about control and getting things right, because sometimes Aquarius energy is very rigid, especially with Saturn inside. Maybe it's a little bit like all sticky and a little bit robust, and it's a little bit judgmental or traumatized. Now we got to like allow also mishaps to happen. And if you really want to awaken, if you want to open your heart during this time, yes, it is about moving up in frequency. Yes, it's about changing place. It's about changing dimensions. It is about filtering in a way and getting cleaner and more aligned and more conscious. But it is also not about necessarily shunning, locking up, pushing away, or fighting these people or the previous conclusions in your life. It's not necessarily about rejection, which is something that I think a lot of people have missed in the previous cycles of time. It's not about slapping somebody down and then being a victor on top of that person. So competition and negativity towards other people has to inevitably settle down. So even if you're looking for your previous partners or your past experiences, and you're thinking, what was I thinking? You know, like what was I doing back then? Why did I put myself into these bad positions? You know, why is a big question mark for a lot of people. Since January, actually, it's not actually very becoming. It's not about trying to tie yourself down to a rock or some kind of like a hard place where you can be born again and somehow sort of like find your feet. It's also kind of like about accepting that there are certain things and certain narratives of cause and effects. And not just that, you've been through certain things, and yeah, also admitting that maybe some things were no good, so you don't repeat those, you know, so you don't just self-preservation, yeah, is an important part of this. But you have to kind of like be also kind of okay that some things happen, because without certain sin or without certain trauma or without certain shadow, you wouldn't have been able to resolve other problems in your life. So in some ways, it's an opportunity to grow, like even trauma, like for example, with the body, even being very ill, sometimes aids you in mutation. And that is actually a good sign. Sometimes this is how we evolve, I feel, is through some kind of shadow. And also, if you've always wanted to alchemize something that is like almost impossible, the impossible dreams always come from shadow. So it's not just about a simple little life. And that's also not maybe where you necessarily want to go. I'm just saying that some of us have to experience or go through some shadows still, you know, Otherwise, we won't conquer certain mountains, you know. Or you could always have let go. So this is also a completely different way. So I'm just like putting some options in front of you. There is a mountain to conquer for some people, and they're still gritting their teeth, and they're still getting really hard and emotional about stuff. So also there is another thing. This is something that I want you to know. There was never really a need to fight. So it's just another rhetoric here, completely different vibration. You can always just walk about and see what's up. You could have always had a very easy, simple, and humble life. But humbleness is not sometimes where the body wants to be, where the mind thinks it needs to be. And that's the question. Maybe that's a question of the ages. Maybe that's something that has no resolute. Do you keep humble and quiet, and do you retain yourself and preserve your safety? Or would you rather become a great changer, maybe even a great friend, or like a big heart? Or would you want to rather like make it to the big mountaintop? And the question is basically somewhere in between. So there are a lot of intense remarks, there are a lot of intense energies that are like going on, right? And people are maybe not so sure about themselves, and this whole month seems very uneasy in terms of people feeling trouble because this conservatism is here, but at the same time everything is kind of yes but a no, but I don't know, but I kind of don't feel like it, but it's kind of all happening, and it's like a little bit hard to really see the forest for the trees in Aquarius anyway, because of this multitude of energies, multitude of vibrations that are working through each one of us. It means so well, like all of it means so well, it just doesn't know how else. So for example, if you drink unsanitary water, it means so well, but it just doesn't know how else. It will probably cause a bacterial infection, for example. If like you go out there with no shoes on, you might get an infection for travel through your feet, you know. It happens, you know. You know, for example, if you make a friend and you don't consider, you know, everything, you might make a friend who actually shouldn't be your friend, and maybe they're a little bit dangerous and harmful to you. You know, it's sort of like this, like there's like a slight edginess to this time. And then we're asking like, well, what is good? How do you navigate it? And, you know, like, yeah, sure, it could be very like Christianic in a way and say through the heart, you know, like very like, I don't know, enigmatic or spiritual. It is and it isn't like that. I feel that the main feeling is kind of like the salt or the juice of your life. So that's where your sensory experience has to come first. And I think that a lot of people don't understand how to do that, because there is a sensory overload through the media, through the billboards, through everyday life. So I feel that when I'm very lost and that I don't know what is going on, I go directly through the senses. So what feels good, and what is a yes and what is a no. Also, Jupiter and Aries, it's the first impression. It's the first, like, it's a smell, it's audio, you know, it's the first feeling. Does it make you feel, does it make you feel, it's like that, you know. So when you are eating or drinking or, you know, making friends or going somewhere, it is about having a certain type of happiness pursue you, because you are using your sensory body. It's meant to be sensory. It's not just like a hologram when you like this, you know, a sensory body to be able to understand you and your experiences. So maybe like the whole reading just had to come to that. It's a sensory universe now. So we're talking about, like, say, the division of worlds, you know, when will heaven come to earth, all of that, you know, crazy like psychic or spiritual stuff. Well, the time is here. It's where I'm going, you know, this is where I am. It's just about sensory things, you know. Wow, that apple tasted so good, or like, wow, these grapes are so perfect, or like, wow, look at this day, look at the leaves outside. So following, it's not just about following a game plan, it's going with the natural senses. So it's not about recorded music anymore. It's about the music of the birds and the sound of the trees, you know. It won't be maybe, again, that which it was. So we're talking about palettes and what is palatable. And also have to say that Rabbit does drive us in terms of art and design and creation of new, better and upcoming cultures. It's also about the ringing of truth, you know. So to me this is very hard to talk about, and I understand that a lot of people must have already logged off and they don't care about the rest of the video, but you see, because we're going into finer material stuff, okay, Like, for example, even if you're very good at music, if you play the loudest trumpet, if you can blow the loudest note, it doesn't compare to the sound of the sea. And it never could. Never, ever. Even if you can mix colors on your palette incredibly and you can paint the most like incredible portrait, that doesn't compare to the actual moment. It doesn't. It will never. It will never. It will never compare. So if you can take all this stuff and you can put it in a box and you can mix it all up and make the most incredible ragu that tastes like this and this and this and this, and you can put all this flavor together, I just won't sing those notes. It hasn't got any place in my stomach, you know. Like, it hasn't really got any place if you are thinking about true nutrition. Like, okay, it just doesn't. It doesn't compare, you know. You know. So also, if you take a body and you dress them up in the most arrogant and flamboyant outfit, it will never ring true to a real soul. You know, even if you're wearing the most sexiest, most trendiest, trending is really big, like modern, fashionable garb, it just won't mean anything to a person who could actually see you. You know, so that's all. And basically, you know, that's it. You know, so keep yourself together. I think it's really hard. We have a lot of you know, confusion because nobody really wants to see what they're going through. People are so freaked out by the street outside and their freaking box and the television. They just don't understand. So basically, if you want to bypass everything, just go out. Just go out and see what life is, you know. And each to their own. Also, I don't understand like how that's going to change, but like, yeah, we have a lot of people in the world. We have billions of people. Should every single person wake up right now and get themselves a little place far away from the city, like, this is going to be a big stress for the planet. Just saying. So maybe in perspective, you see why all of this crisis had to happen. Like all of this illness and pandemic and everything, you know. These wars also, what for? What for? Why? It's like because they're crimes against nature and they don't go empty-handed. Like, it doesn't just finish a crime against nature and that's it. Karmas and traumas. So don't want to talk about that too much, I suppose. Nobody wants to talk about that, but I think I see you because, like, you probably understand now what this whole reading is about, right? So it's about neurological awakening because neurosis is also part of that, and it's probably one of the most neurotic months that I've seen. And it is about a deliberate connection. It's not just about creativity, like creativity. Look at me singing. Look at me writing a song. Look at me dancing. No, it's like it's actually about connectivity. Connection goes beyond flair. So that's really good if you are very sensitive. It's not about being seductive. It's about being sensory. You would lead other people to be as well like that. So, for example, if you're a hypersensory person, you don't need the credentials anymore, you know. So, yeah, the paperwork, you know, stacks of paper for so many years, you know, everybody looked at paperwork, you know, nobody really looked at themselves. And now there's that, and there are probably only some people that can resonate together. So also the tribes are getting very small. I think that's all I got to say, and I hope that you have a wonderful time, and if you like, check out my other stuff. It's all in the caption section below. Thank you. Bye.